Hey, this is SJ. Donald Trump was ordered by the Supreme Court to break out them food stamps. They told him that they have some type of discretionary fund account supposed to have billions of dollars in it. I don't understand. I don't understand. I'm still trying to understand all this politics stuff and how the government works and I don't understand. You was gonna drop if it wasn't a shutdown, you would have dropped the food stamps anyway if it wasn't a shutdown. So why all of a sudden y'all trying to cry broke and act like you don't have the money? So they got to tap into this discretionary fund that they have. I guess that's what they call it. They have to tap into that to break out them food stamps because it was just lots of people were panicking. Lots of people was going to be affected. The elderly, the disabled, working moms, struggling working families. Um, it's a lots of people that were going to be affected by those food stamps being cut off. And like I said, I wasn't getting that much. But what about the working moms? The working moms out there and the disabled people and the elderly people, and there was a lot of food banks. Food banks were trying to prepare and everything like that, but then food banks are running short too. And so I know here in Michigan, they said that Michigan was prepared to drop $71 million just in case the government didn't kick in. But yeah, they were ordered. It's actually illegal for them to cut that, to cut it off completely like that. It's actually illegal for them to do that. And so the Supreme Court justice ordered Trump to go ahead and drop them stamps. They didn't have no business trying to hold them back in the first place because there's too many people. We're right now we're in an economic crisis due to this tariff situation going on. Food prices are through the roof. I was just at the Meyer store today, and I was looking at some ground beef, over $9 for a pound. I was gonna do a little video, but I didn't. Over $9 for a pound of ground beef. I kid you not. I was at the Meyer store. Over $9 for a pound of beef, just 1 pound. And so I was looking at, and I seen some for $7 and something, because I wanted to, have some hamburger, and I said, you know what, I need to cut back on my beef anyway. Let me check out that turkey over there, that turkey meat over there. So I went over to the turkey meat, and the turkey meat was almost just as expensive as the beef, but it was cheaper. So I did break down and grab me a pound of turkey, um, the turkey meat, and I said I need to cut back on my beef anyway. You know, I don't need no beef no way. So I said I just could not see paying over $9 for a pound of beef. I just couldn't see it, and so and I was gonna get me a steak. I was looking at the steaks, and the steaks were pricey. The price of beef done went up. And I was like, you know what? I can steak would be delicious, but you know what? I go ahead and pass on that. So food prices are high. Food prices are high. I got to the checkout. I didn't even hardly have nothing in the bottom of my cart. Most of the stuff I had was in the top part of the cart, and it was over $100. Most of the stuff I had was in the top part of the cart. I didn't even hardly have anything in the bottom of the cart. Yeah, I had a few things, but a lot of things I had at the top of the cart. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like you're not even feeling spending $100. You're not even filling a quarter of the cart. You're not even filling up the quarter of a cart nowadays. Spending $100, and so food prices are high. They're very, very, very expensive. And so that's what I'm saying. I went and got some. I went and got some smoked sausages because I'm gonna make my red beans and rice. I went and got some smoked sausages, And the smoked sausages were almost $4. I used to be able to get some sausages for $1.99. I used to be able to get smoked sausages for $1.99, maybe a little over $2. I'm like, you got to be kidding me here. The smoked sausages was over $3, and I'm like, ugh, man, everything is just so expensive. It's just everything is just so expensive. It's just crazy. These prices are crazy, and it's like, yeah, with food prices are through the roof, and then housing costs are through the roof, and so people cannot afford to be. I mean, and then they didn't raise minimum wage, so people can't afford to go without food stamps. You got work people are working in there, and these people don't understand. All these ignorant people out here talking about get a job. Most people that are on a lot of people that are on food stamps already have a job, and but they're still struggling because of this economy, because everything is so high. Housing costs is high and food prices, everything is high. Everything is expensive. Not just food prices, but everything. Because of this stupid tariff stuff he's doing, everything is expensive anymore. Everything. I kind of know how to bargain shop, but everything is expensive. Everything is expensive anymore. And so people are working and they're still the ends still ain't meeting. People are still struggling. And so families, especially working families, they need them food stamps. They need those stamps. They need them. And the disabled and the elderly need them. They're on a fixed income. They need it. They need those food stamps. And it's not okay for them to withhold those food stamps. Because a lot of people, a lot of children, a lot of elderly, a lot of disabled people in that, and they said even veterans. One was some veterans a lot of veterans are relying on those food stamps, and they can't do that. They wrong for that. They was wrong to withhold those food stamps because people need them. You can't starve your citizens. You can't. How you gonna give $40 billion to Argentina and gonna turn around and try to make your American citizens starve? Make it make sense. America's turning into a third world country anymore. America is literally turning into a third world country. Did you know they say millennials may not even be able to buy a house? Millennials, around my oldest son's age, like mid 30s and 30s, early to mid 30s, early 40s, the millennials generation may not be able to buy a home. That's what they're saying. That's scary. That's scary. This is America. This is and they talking about they want people to have babies, increase the population, and mainly talking about white people to have babies. They want white people to have babies to increase the population. Ain't nobody gonna be popping out no babies. Ain't nobody trying to pop out no babies unless they rich. Who gonna be popping out some babies? And you talking about cutting stuff. You're not raising the minimum wage. Now, if you're going to cut these programs, raise the minimum wage. If you're going to cut Section 8, if you're going to cut food stamps, raise the minimum wage. Raise the minimum wage. If you're going to do that, raise the minimum wage. Instead of creating jobs, you're eliminating jobs. Instead of creating jobs, you're eliminating jobs. Thousands of people have been laid off. I want to say 14,000, but don't quote me. Thousands of people have been laid off at Amazon because of AI. They've been laying people off at UPS because of AI. AI, artificial intelligence. People are being laid off and they're using machines to replace humans. People are getting laid off. Amazon is a pretty big employer, and they just literally laid off thousands and thousands of people. That's serious. That's serious. And they telling people to get a job. Okay, what job you gonna get? What job are you get? The federal government, the most secure job that you could get in the United States was a federal job, wasn't it? Everybody aspired. I tried to. I even tried to get a federal job, but they veterans got first preference. I even tried to get a federal job. Federal jobs were the best job you could get in the United States, wasn't it? When you got a federal job, you don't quit federal jobs. If you got a federal job, you got guaranteed to have great benefits, great pay. If you got a federal job, you better hold on to it and you better keep it. Everybody knew that. Everybody knew once they got a federal job, you better keep it because it's literally was the most secure job. A federal job was the most secure job that you could have here in the United States. Well, even federal jobs aren't secure anymore. They're making the federal employees go to work and work for free. Isn't that slavery? That's slavery. They're making the federal workers still clock in and not get a paycheck. Who does that? Who does that? So you still imagine being laid off. Imagine your employer telling you, "I'm not gonna pay you, but you still got to come to work, or you're gonna be fired." Imagine your employer telling you that. Imagine that. How many of you will be like, "Bye, adios amigo. I'm not coming to work and working for free for you." But this we're not talking about just any old private sector job. We're talking about the federal government here, which were supposed to be the best jobs that you could get here in the United States. When you had a federal job, you just don't. Everybody know you just don't just walk away from a federal job. Like I've done a lot of job hopping in my lifetime. If I had a federal job, I would have been on lock. I wouldn't have went nowhere. You could transfer. You can transfer to different departments, but no, you better not walk away. And they couldn't fire you unless they had a good reason to get rid of you. They had to have a good reason to fire you. On the flip side. So a government job here in the United States was the most secure job you could get. Everybody know that. And now even the federal jobs aren't secure anymore because they're laying them off. Lots of federal workers, when he first got in there, lost their jobs. And now lots of them got laid off. Now lots of them are expecting to report to work and not get a paycheck. Like, how am I working and not getting a paycheck? You talking about pissed? You still got to jump up out your bed, get in your car, and come to work and know you're not going to get no paycheck at the end of the 2 weeks or a week or 2 weeks. I mean, how upsetting is that? I mean, I'd be furious. It's a catch-22 because I know if I quit, I know they're like, I know if I quit, I know I'm not going to find something as good as this. So it's like they're caught between a rock and a hard place. You got federal workers that was laid off that have to go to the pantries, the food pantries and that. And people were saying, well, what they were making, because, people work for the federal government, made pretty good money, but and people were saying, well, why come these people wouldn't? I was reading some of these videos and stuff and blogs, and they were saying, well, why come these people wouldn't saving their money? These people were making good money. How come? But when you make more, you spend more. And then you got to understand that, these people are middle to upper class. they're paying more taxes. They're paying more taxes. And and people have the tendency that when they make more, they spend more, and then you're gonna live according. Most people, they make a certain amount of money, they're gonna live according to how much they make. They're gonna live according to how much they make. It's very rare to have a person making decent money and really living below their means. Most people, if they make a decent amount of money, they're gonna live at a certain level. They're gonna be living at a certain level, especially if they have a family. I mean, that's just reality of it. And so it's easier said than done to say, well, they should have been saving. They should have had some savings. Maybe some of them did, and they depleted their savings. You know what I'm saying? But you make more, you spend more, you might have more bills, whatever the situation is. You got a house, a mortgage that you got to pay a certain amount of money on. You got a car payment, and that you're gonna live according to how much you make. So that's easier said than done. Sometimes middle class people and upper middle class people live paycheck to paycheck because they are paying more taxes. See, the middle class and the upper middle class people pay more taxes. Yeah, they pay more taxes. They really, really eat them up on taxes. They really, really get ate up. The middle class really get ate up on taxes. And so when you look at it like that, they might not have had, money saved up like that. Or they had it, they depleted their savings. And so you can't file unemployment. They got them hemmed up because they can't file unemployment because it's still working. See, they really got them hemmed up. And that's evil. That's evil and it's dirty. Expecting people to still come to work and not get a paycheck. Just so y'all don't have to pay unemployment. Only the government can get away with that. So that's what I'm saying. People say get a job, go get a job. What job? What job? Jobs are getting scarce nowadays. I was just talking to my son earlier, and he was saying that because there's a lot of factories here in my city, that a lot of people are going to be starting because a lot of people are going to start be flocking to these smaller cities because the larger cities are getting very expensive and with all of these massive layoffs and job cuts, people are not going to be able to afford to. A lot of people are not going to be able to afford to live in a lot of these bigger cities, and they're going to start migrating to the smaller cities. And my son was saying because we have a lot of factories. We have a lot of factories here in my city, and he said a lot of people are gonna be scooping up them factory jobs. They're gonna be coming here and scooping up these factory jobs and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, the people are gonna start migrating where the jobs are. You know, and I do believe that the smaller cities are going to become more populated because people are going to be looking. Michigan's rents, housing costs have went up, but still, uh, one of the most. Michigan still has some of the most affordable housing in the states up here in Michigan. I mean, the housing costs have went up, but it's still affordable compared when you compare it to New York, L.A. When you compare it to other parts of the country, it's very affordable. Even Atlanta or Florida and places like that. So Texas, Michigan is even more affordable than Texas. So heck, you can get a decent house here for under $200,000 here in my city. A decent house. I mean, a nice house. I mean, you can get a nice house in a decent area for under 200,000. I kid you not. I kid you not. Here in my city. So the housing prices are very, very affordable. Even though they have went up, they're still more affordable than. It's expensive. The housing costs are expensive for Michigan, but they're still higher. They're still lower than a lot of other places in the country, and so people are going to be looking to move to, smaller cities, and the smaller cities are going to become more populated. I know the traffic around here where I live is getting crazy, and so that's what I think is going to happen in the city of Detroit. Their population went down to like 600 to 700,000 people, um, but Detroit's population is going to start increasing. It's going to start going back up because Detroit, you can get some good deals over there on some houses in Detroit, and they're building Detroit. They're slowly building Detroit back up because during the economic crash back in 2008, lots of people were walking away from their homes. Lots of people were losing their homes, left a lot of blight, and they're slowly, surely building Detroit back up. And so people are going to be even flocking to Detroit. You know, Detroit got some nice areas. Detroit has a lot of nice outer areas. Um, when you go outside the inner city, and they have a lot of the surrounding areas. Detroit have a lot of surrounding and outer areas. So people are going to be flocking to, yeah, I really do believe that people, because, people are going to be looking where they can get the jobs. They're going to be looking for, more affordable housing. And so, yeah. So I'm glad that they're gonna bring those food stamps. To just go ahead and just drop them food stamps because a lot of people were standing to, they were in the news outlets were interviewing people, and it was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and stuff like that. They were interviewing disabled people and elderly, um, and even families, and people were on TikTok, just working mothers were just in a panic of all races. They were in a panic. People were in a panic. What scared me is they're talking about, oh, folks gonna start stealing. That's what scared me. So I'm really relieved that they're gonna do it. They didn't have no business trying to hold them back in the first place. So I mean, when I went to the Myers store today, that place was packed. And I'm like, the people, did they already disperse the stamps? So did they already give the stamps out? In the way the store is full, I would think they already got the folks already get their stamps. I don't think anybody gets them on the first up here, around the first up here. I think it's in Michigan. I think mostly people get them towards the middle of the month. I don't know, but yeah, yeah, I'm happy that they're gonna I'm not an advocate for letting children starve, letting, people talk, these ignorant people be talking all this trash. Um, I'm not an advocate for letting children starve, and elderly and disabled people. And I think that, this is supposed to be the greatest country in the world, which is not. That's a myth. That America is the greatest country in the world, that's a myth. It is a myth. United States is not the greatest country in the world. I'm telling you, over the past few months, I've been thinking, man, I want to freaking get out of here. We're trapped. I was talking to my sister the other day, and she was saying that there's some places in the country or in the world that Americans are not welcome. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Because of what Trump is doing. It's because of what he's doing. There is some countries where Americans are literally not welcomed. And I'm like, that's crazy. I said, we're trapped. Of course I can't. I'll just be talking this. I can't go nowhere. But it just kind of make you feel that way because there's so much. Oh, this country's getting horrible. The way this government is treating people, it's just like they do not care about poor people. They don't. They literally don't care about us. And then a lot of people that voted him and voted Trump in, and they're saying folks that didn't vote, you know, um, a lot of folks are having regrets. They having regrets, and so it is what it is at this point. Only thing we can do now is pray. That's all we can do is pray. Um, Pray that this We got 3 more years of this jerk in office, so we're gonna have to pray. We're gonna have to pray for him. We're gonna have to pray for this country, the government. We're gonna have to pray. We're gonna just gonna have to stay prayed up, people. We gotta stay prayed up, fam. That's the only thing I can tell you is that we gotta stay prayed up. So we gotta put our faith and trust in God, and not put so much faith and trust in man, but put it in God. Because at the end of the day, God is more powerful than the government and Donald Trump. He's not as powerful as the Supreme Court just showed him. He's not as powerful as he think he is. So hit me up in that comment section. And they talking about having some more protests. They're talking about boycotting the stores and stuff, having boycotts around the holidays and not doing no shopping. Yeah, right. Boycotting Black Friday and stuff like that. So hit me up in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are on the massive job losses, on the food stamp situation, the fact they're going to be bringing them out and getting them back out. That's a blessing. Just everything with this administration and everything that's going on. Let me know what your thoughts are on it. Go ahead and hit that like button, because when you hit that like button, that pushes that algorithm right straight up to the top there. It'll generate more views. I need to start getting in more views. And hit that subscribe, and then hit that share button. Share the video. Help me out, people. Help me out. Just hit the like button. Just hit it. That's all you gotta do is just hit the button. Okay, until the next video, you guys be blessed.